Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.
Rolling. Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And today I have a special guest. In effect, she is one of the people that actually has the pleasure of being a two-time guest. There's very few people that are two-time guests. And not saying I'm against a two-time guest or anything. That's true. It just, it happens in the flow. And the first time we interviewed, it was like, all right, what am I going to do? I'm coming in here for you, Kari. It was a fun interview and discussion. Someone that adds to a lot of the experiences that you experience. When we think of Detroit, we think of cultural events, we think of fun, we think of African World Festival, we think of other events, like we think of different things, jazz inside communities. We think of all of the different events and fairs and how these things come together. As you're enjoying this and you're looking at the performances, the bands, the dancers, the music, the DJs, and the food and where people flow, the games, the lighting, fireworks, and more, it's a whole team of people that make this happen, right? On these teams are definitely not a whole lot of people that usually look like us, especially the bigger the production, So it's very few black people. And even more so than few black people, women are almost like you can count on one hand. It's like where they're at, So we're appreciating all this culture, all these experiences, and we're wondering like, okay, how does this happen? Because you just enjoying the Super Bowl, enjoying the Final Four, enjoying the NFL draft that will be in Detroit in 2024. And a lot of people are already talking about how these productions will happen and all the accompanied events and where people go, traffic flow, hotels and spacing and lighting and making sure you can hear, because you may buy that ticket where you're number 100,000 at that Beyonce show, but you still paid your $1,500 or your $2,000 or your $5,000. So even more reason why you still need to hear the show and see the different performers on the stage. So with that big run, and y'all see I'm showing love because I love this, because I do a lot of this. Nina Payne.
What up, dog?
How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Awesome is a heck of an adjective. One not used
awesome.
often.
Yeah,
so.
I'm pretty awesome. Like, I feel awesome.
Check.
I am awesome.
Check. All right. So, for people that get the second experience, we don't really start off with like the life story and the origin and everything. We kind of jump right into what's happening. And what's happening is you are now a part of the Detroit is Different family.
You welcomed me into the family. Yes. So I'm super excited about our new podcast that'll be filmed right here. You'll be able to hear it from right here in the Detroit is Different studios. We're going to be dropping later this month. So, make sure you check us out at where are we? All Things BTS Podcast. That's where we are. Yes. It's new. And guess what? It's all things behind the scenes. We're going to be showing all the mistakes. We're going to be putting the camera on ourselves. You'll see how all this is coming together. And partner, and Kari doesn't know this yet, but he also will be interviewed on our show, because it's important for us to commingle and for you to get to know how all of this came about as well, because this is a part of throwing an event. And so we can get into all kind of details, but I'm super excited to be a part of the Detroit is Different family.
Well, we welcome you with open arms, as I'm bringing more of the synergy of, I call my giants, my not necessarily OGs, but the people I lean on.
I think I'm moving into OG category.
You are in that. I still consider you like a big homie. If it's like layers.
But I'm definitely auntie. Yes. I'm definitely like mentor. Like I got a call the other day and it was just really cute. And she, no names, but she's an event person and she just needed some help. But she was like, I'm just so excited I can call you whenever, because if anybody know, And I'm like, lay it on me, girl. Let's go. Let's get it done. So I'm like, I'm okay, and I'm embracing that space because I've been doing this for a long time, Kari.
Definitely. And surprisingly, that's why I say like a big homie, because I've been in this mix for a minute too.
You have.
And, you need people to lean on. So my cousin Lumumba is going to be more involved.
What up,
and others. And that just helps me solidify things because for people that have done productions, and you'd be surprised what level of production is, because sometimes a production, how we look at it in project, can be some of the smallest scale things that you put a lot of energy into.
Absolutely.
We all been there. You've been to a school play and you're like, God bless them. And then you get into a school play and you're like, man, who is... It's
a difference, and you recognize that difference.
Exactly. It's like, what on Broadway is going on over here in this school production?
Who is back in that booth? What is going on?
Yes.
Yeah, all of that.
In everything. And it adds to the appreciation, because those experiences, that culture, those programs, those presentations are what hook people and what we remember in life just for years to come. And also provide... just an introduction and taste for those people that work on those school productions, those church productions, those neighborhood association productions. That's the start of the gateway, to careers in something that you've immersed yourself into.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about foundation, how you got down, what it is, and really just this insight of behind the scenes of productions.
It's interesting that you mentioned churches, because that's really where I honed majority of my skills. Before I've been doing events since high school. I was just, one of those people in their friend group that managed all the things and scheduled all the things and made sure you were where you're supposed to be. And the ride's going to show up at such and such a time. Make sure you have this. Make sure you have your ticket. I was just that. I was that person. I didn't understand that skill set at that time. And I would get really frustrated with my stupid friends because they would always rely on me to get it done. But I was the one that... If it wasn't done, there was going to be help. You
were like the Boblo boat leaves at.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, if we aren't there, then
I'm there. If you're not there, then shame on you. Yeah, I was that person. I just I started doing events really early, and I remember doing a baby shower. Yes, a baby shower in high school. No judgment. I remember doing a baby shower for one of my friends, and her dad gave me $50 at the end. Like, pulled me to the side, broke me off like a 50. And that was back in the day, like $50 in high school at one time was a lot of dough. And so I just remember that moment, like, this is something you can get paid for doing. I had no idea. There wasn't anybody in my family that was doing events. I didn't understand the concept, but I knew I liked putting things together. And so when I went to college, I got into doing parties and got into doing female and male exotic parties. We want to talk about that, but I made a lot of money and I had to pay my way through school. So I worked a lot, worked full-time job, went to school full time, and I threw parties. And I learned the front end because there were a bunch of guys doing it already. I kind of got in there, but they were just doing a basic event, right? People, DJ, a couple of lights, tickets, and that was pretty much it. There was no decor. It wasn't like it is now. Decor is everything now, right? You got balloons everywhere and all these people doing amazing decor things. It was really basic, simple, dark room kind of thing. And I came in and was able to kind of like create some things that make the women feel special in the room, create more of an experience when you walk in. And I kind of fell in love with the production of it. So inviting artists or inviting jugglers or stoat walkers or whatever at that time. Just what are we going to do to kind of make this party, a little bit more festive? And the production of like taking a clean slate, an empty room, because we were doing ballrooms at the airport at that time, because I went to Eastern Michigan University, shout out, and taking that empty ballroom and building and stacking and creating and running lines and figuring out all of those things that had to happen in order for when that crowd hit that door for them to have an amazing experience. I fell in love with all of that.
And as you talk about this, and I'm thinking about a lot of the events that I've done, and this, let me tell you something about creating that experience and the difference, because it's tough, because the end user, the person that comes, if it's, for lack of a better term, janky, it has to be extremely janky for usually people to walk up to you, unless they're like that type A personality that's extreme like that. Yeah. But usually the key way that I can tell is people leave soon, like sooner than they plan to. It's like, I came to see this one singer and then I'm leaving. If it's a good experience, I believe people stay.
Yeah.
Almost to the point where you got to kick them out because the experience is so welcoming.
Yeah.
They feel like, I want to be a part of this.
Yep.
Nowadays, obviously, they'll start taking selfies and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the experience becomes a place and space where it's like, I want to be here as opposed to like just breeze through here.
Yeah.
And it conveys. So some of those small touches, definitely decor. You have to think about so many other things as I've gone. Parking. Yeah. Parking becomes
security.
A big thing, especially in Detroit.
Yeah.
Security. What are the food options?
It's not necessarily security, but feeling secure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So parking and lighted parking, I feel comfortable leaving my car here. All of those type of things that you're thinking about. And remember, people remember how you made them feel. That's with anything. So they might even know any of the artists, but they know that Kyrie not only throws events, but he kind of pays attention to the details to make sure that I am going to feel safe. I am going to have an amazing experience. There's a natural wholesome to the events that you do, generally about the people, about the community. Yeah. There's some benefit other than just what's happening on stage. That's a bonus. And so people kind of know your thing. They know your brand of events. And so they feel that they know they're going to have a great feeling. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah, and it's ways to be creative with it. And that's where I think that you're very creative, because even the spaces that I often use, I look to use in this Hope Village footprint. So I use the Andy Art space, which isn't necessarily like, it's not, I love the space, but it's not Cobo Hall, or what is it now? It's the Huntington Place, whatever.
Yeah, it's the Huntington Place.
Something like that. It's not that.
Yeah, but it has its own cachet.
And with that cachet, you have to lean into it, because I think that's where knowing the creativity of setting the right expectation of where things are. And that's also with, like, when people, I've been on it, obviously, on both sides. I've obviously attended, I've participated, but I've also been the producer and promoter of an event. And sometimes producers and promoters are like, yeah, it's going to be a $75 event. And then people say to themselves, like, why don't they want to pay? They'll go to the, I don't know, it can be anything. It's like, these people were packed and went, paid all this money for the Rolling Loud, weed event. And these people don't want to come and support the Detroiter that's doing something. And it's like, okay, you have to set the expectation. You have to color that expectation the right way. You have to build up. It's other hooks. And when I really immerse myself in it, it's a top to bottom. Even food has a whole lot to do with what that is. Because if I'm doing something that I would say is calling for, what I would call like a fresh vibes and new energy, to have like a lot of like heavy foods and things like
fried
that. And
foods.
That could get messy and things like that. It's like, now it may throw the vibe off.
Yes. All of that is important. And not only, and I just put this out there, make sure you feed the people in the back like you feed the people in the front. So the people that are working, don't forget them. But yeah, it's a part. Does your event require networking, right? And food? And so you can't eat a successful chicken wing if you are trying to have a conversation with people, and you know what I mean? Know your audience. And so there are some events where that is perfectly okay, right? Knowing who your target is and knowing they're going to be okay with the other person slathering chicken and all of that. Know your audience. There's room for all of it, but understand that so that you can have the support of whatever food or beverage, alcohol, not alcohol, what types of alcohol are you selling, what type of lit are we trying to get, like all of that stuff is so important, and people don't think about all the many details. We can talk about lighting. When you light a room a certain way, as people walk in, they feel a certain way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so do you want a big, bright room when they walk in? Because that's a different feeling than an intimate with candles kind of thing. Do you want to have the stage popping when they walk in? Do you want to have music, DJ flashing around? Like, you have to create a mood from the time they get out of their car all the way into until they sit in their seat and they watch the show until they leave. Like, it's a whole thing you have to think about.
And even with music, as I love music, my life is like a soundtrack, and I have different songs almost for like everything. It's like I'm waking up, like, but I do recognize, hence this is where the valuable or great DJ comes into play. And it's a lot of people that have jumped in the DJ sphere in today's world, and some of them are great playlist makers. Like, I'm a great playlist guy. I think I got some cool playlists, but you have to, a DJ really can control some of the moods and knows
Baby,
where things
yes.
go, and even the volume of certain things. Like, you know, most people know, I don't know if you, some people may not. Hip hop, that's my trade. That's where all of this kind of comes from. So
he's
the
an
hip-hop
artist,
show,
everybody. He's an artist. He's
See.
not saying that, but he's a hip hop artist.
Yes,
Let's just
yes.
yeah.
So, but the underground hip hop scene had a it comes with a culture and a call to action where people that are interested in underground hip hop may not necessarily be interested in the experience of underground hip hop, because underground hip hop is usually like you say, you're gonna walk in. The show probably starts at 10. So that means nobody's going to be on stage till about 12:30.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's going to be like, you know, we love the Shelter for underground hip hop, but the Shelter experience with the bathroom of the Shelter has, and I'm not throwing any shade on this, because it is a call to action and it does have an
It
experience.
created its own culture, by the venue was a part of that. And then it became copycats of that same culture, because people wanted to have that same feeling of grunge and grit and rawness. To the so if I take that room and I'm trying to, you know, I create something else out of it, it's no longer gonna feel like underground hip hop. And
that feel of underground hip hop, as we know, and I was just leading to your work with our other, I guess, podcast mate in Piper. You help,
Piper.
And you've worked with her to place underground hip hop with women in a space where it actually welcomed, surprisingly, a lot of women, because usually underground hip hop is a male dominant. And when I say that, I mean like it'll be 100 people and it may be like 10 women. And of those 10, probably 5 are like girlfriends or sisters of the artist, and 5 are fans that, you know, have been connected to it for a long time. So like to create this feel and that experience is, you have to be intentional, like you say. Like if she wants to wear I mean, usually this is always the question. You know, if you take a woman out, hey, come on, I'm picking you up. You ready? What are we wearing? What is it gonna be?
And there's reasons for that.
Like, and then be like, woman, just get ready. That's the man's point of view. But this goes into a lot of that experience, because if they're gonna walk through a graveled, rocked parking lot, then the heels may need to stay home.
Right. Or it's a different type of heel. But they need to know the details. They have to know the details. And so creating that type of mood, whether, you know, you talk about Piper and what we did with, you know, We Found Hip Hop, and inviting women to finally be a safe place. So if you talk about underground hip hop and the day of underground hip hop, it didn't lend itself for a safe space for women MCs or even women to attend.
Yes.
And so we, you know, working with Piper and creating a space for that kind of made women feel like they could do that. You know what I mean? Now I feel like, okay, I can be heard. I don't have to worry about my body. I don't have to worry about the things. I can just worry about being amazing. I can just worry about spitting the bars. You know what I mean? They don't have to think about all the other things, getting grabbed, all of that. And so it made sense, you know, in a way that why it attracted so many females.
So with that, like, and that's where I just, because I know a little history, and I thought that it was phenomenal, because it's just rare to see that. Like, I thought it would be the same underground hip hop crowd when I was seeing some of the stages that you were helping produce with her. What were some of how did you walk her through this process? How did you create? What's your, I guess, where do you begin when you work with someone to create an event?
You always work with goals. Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? And I don't care if it's a birthday party, 50-year-old, 78th anniversary, launch of a podcast. What are we trying to do? Like, let's figure out what we're trying to do, make sure everybody who's a part of this plan knows the goals. And so that when you start to move, nobody's shocked, right? And some of the things that Piper wanted to do, when I came into the brand, it was really with Dilla Youth Day. And so she wanted to take the brand of Dilla Youth Day to another level, right? Be able to make it attractive to sponsors and make it attractive to a different group outside of the
underground hip hop audience.
Yeah, there was this group of people that she was targeting and had been knowing for a long time, and she was ready to kind of reach outside of that because it was such an amazing brand. And so we got together and figured out what those goals were. I started putting a plan together on how then to reach out. The people that I know in my circles are a little bit different than her and her circles, and so we blended those circles a little bit and kind of gave access to a different groups of people who are still interested in hip hop, but they had not gotten into the Piper sphere, if you know what I mean, like this kind of, space that was underground hip hop mixed with, arts and culture and Pan-Africanism and there was so much cultural kind of, it was difficult to even from outside looking in, even know what all of that was. And so I think when we kind of joined forces, it made it a little more palatable for people that are not brought up in that to kind of oh, that's what that is. Oh, I understand now what that is. I can be a part of that. And so I think intentionally having a conversation with people who might not normally travel in those spaces to invite them in and then be okay with that.
So even with that, that's unique because it's talking to who the producer of this is, of the event, the Wishes, Piper we're speaking about. But then you're like, okay, we need to welcome new stakeholders into this experience.
Well, it was based off of what she wanted to accomplish.
Yes.
So I always talk to the creator about what they want to accomplish, and then I create the goals based on that. So what is our overall vision? What are we trying to accomplish? What are our goals? And let me go out and try to make those goals happen. Not necessarily I didn't create the goals. It's really her vision and what she wanted, how she saw this happening. And I thought I could lend my expertise in that, and then we could join forces to make that happen. And we've said this before, I've been a Piper Carter fan ever since I've met her. And her energy and the way she moves and her plight and her community and her people and thing, I'm a fan. And so when we got together and I said, oh, this is what you want to do? Oh, we can do that. Let's go ahead and create this thing. Now I got to come up with a plan on how to make that thing happen that she saw, but she couldn't figure out how to get there.
So that vision of life and bringing in new stakeholders based on the vision of Piper in this, but the producer.
Yeah.
How do you convey that message to other potential stakeholders to say, look, I believe this fits some of the direction of where you're going, and this is a something where you can call to some of the people you already know and connect with new people where you have some shared interests.
Yeah, it's language. It's like knowing the language and the goals of the person that you're talking to. You're really good at connecting brands with an event, and you know what their plights are. What are what type of community goals do they have? What are they trying to accomplish? Do they have any type of desire to get involved with STEM? Do they have any desire to get involved with youth? Those are kind of blanket. And then once you say, oh, this is the organization that wants to get involved with youth, man, we have youth. They just happen to be involved in hip hop and STEM and performance. And we find the language that's going to work with that particular stakeholder. And so now it's an opportunity to kind of expand, which we did with the vendors, is not only is this youth, and youth is a really big umbrella, right? But here are the tiers within the youth that you can plug into. Well, not only do we have youth this age, but we have youth this color. We have youth they're interested in these things. It could be health. It could be, there were so many other things to tap into. And once you do that, and the bell goes off oh, I didn't know that's what that was. Because you only saw it in this way, because the language wasn't there to tell you that all these other things existed or could be created based on what you wanted to accomplish with the event as well.
That's interesting. And I like that you unpacked it in that way. And then in that same track, like you say, a whole nother client, I'm going to bring up the Rachel Allen event at Marygrove that we went to. Shout out Rachel. Rachel, amazing. So now whole nother client, whole nother dynamic, another passionate vision and idea.
Oh, yeah.
What were the stakeholders? How did you look to really, at that point, it seemed like galvanizing a lot of individuals.
You're talking about which Rachel Allen event? Because she's
many.
plenty. Which one are we talking about?
We're talking about, I think it was Mind Your Business.
The Mind Your Business event. So Rachel and Obsidia, which is her newest adventure, her company, mixed with her new event space in Farmington, look it up, wanted to throw an event that celebrated women in business, as well as be able to give them access to resources. That's pretty much the crux of it. And so creating a way to do that. How do we do that? How do we get the right people in the room that need to hear this information? What type of information do we need to share from the stage that not only is going to be beneficial, but is going to keep people in the room? What type of other things can we do in the space, right, to be able to keep people in the room? Because you can't give them the information that you want to give them if they don't stay in the room. So it was coming up with, we love to eat, so make sure you feed them all day. Breakfast, some lunch, and, some snacks in between. done. Make sure that that's done. Hot coffee, because it's during the day and everybody needs a little caffeine if that's your thing. So making sure those things were there. But when you're doing women events, you have to make sure also there's a delicacy to it. We want to feel, for the most part, appreciated for our femininity. We want to make sure that the place is comfortable. We go back to that security question. So it has to be in a venue that is going to provide safety and security. And I'm not have to deal with a whole lot of riffraff and all of that. All of that type of conversation is what we have with Rachel and her team in coming to do that event at Mary Grove. And then creating the look from a stage perspective, right? Not only so that it's comfortable to the eye and it's also comfortable to the speaker, and so that they can feel comfortable delivering. That means good audio, right? So they can hear themselves. That means a good presentation. Is there a visual that's going to emphasize what that speaker is saying? All of those types of conversations kind of led to the culmination of what you saw that day.
So we just explained a lot of some of the genius, and I call that that's like the icing on the cake for the offering and how that works. But now let's get into the eggs, the batter, the behind the scenes.
The behind the scenes
of these types of productions and who to call, when to call. And nowadays production levels are going up. I'm seeing video walls at events that I didn't think I'd see a video wall. I'm starting to see 3D glasses and meta experiences in different spaces and places. I'm seeing lighting rigs with cages and different things like that. The advent of a lot of the non-projection screens, but even the TV screens. Now we're running with the bigger TV. Yeah. I can't say bigger, but
the
bigger TV monitors.
The higher monitors.
Yes.
Yeah.
In spaces, and then lighting and video.
If you don't have lighting, you have an event. I'm just going to put that out there. Quit playing.
Video is often. So now the streamed experience, and I tell a lot of clients are like, oh, we want to stream it. And I tell people, it's like when you stream an event, it's two different events going on.
Say that again for the people in the back. Say it again.
When you stream an event, it's two events going on.
It is.
So oftentimes we'll be at an event and either the audience that's watching on their computers is suffering a less than experience, or the people there are suffering a less than experience. Nothing's worse than buying, the $300 ticket to some gala because you're supporting a friend and this is the big nonprofit event of the year. And you got two camera people right in front of you. And what's crazy is I've been the guy hiring camera people where I'm like, hey, man, that we're in
people right there looking at my butt.
We're in Motor City Casino, man. Set the shot and then duck down.
Right.
Take a knee.
Or bigger than that, set the room up so that you're thinking about the video, ahead of time.
So behind the scenes.
We could talk about this till Jesus
come. That's really the science of everything. So let's start with behind the scenes in just delivering. Let's see, what will probably be a basic event most people have? A graduation, the production team. How do you look at staffing it? What are we thinking about? Graduation season is coming soon. I've been to some good graduations. And then I've been to some graduations where I'm looking at the list of man, why are this many people graduating?
I could say so many things about all of those things. And I'll just start with the fact of, like I said before, it's important to know what we're doing because it really does dictate how the event happens, right? So from start to finish, what the budget's going to be to support that vision, all of that has to happen before you even start planning a graduation. If
let's do it right here.
Let's
do it right here. Role play scenario. I am the client.
Hello, client. How are you?
I got a junior high school.
Junior high, that's middle school, right? Now K through 8 in most places because we're losing kids in all the school systems.
Exactly. So this is just for the middle school kids.
Okay.
I got $5,000. We don't know what venue, but we know that everybody probably going to get 2 tickets for the parents, but we need 4. Yeah. Maybe grandparents will come.
Right.
We need a venue that we have a class of 75 that are walking across, 75 8th graders that are getting ready for high school. And we would love to get a speaker that the youth can identify with, but we don't want any of them crazy rappers that, always talk about doing drugs and guns and stuff. We want somebody that the youth knows, but can connect. Remember, top to bottom, all we got is 5Gs.
And it's middle school.
And it's middle school.
Yeah. So one of the advantages of that you have, client, at schools is that there's a pool of people that would love to speak at, different commencements. They call them commencements in middle school? Commencements. And so let's make out a list of, potential speakers, if you will.
Michelle Obama.
So let's talk about what is local. We're going to get this whiteboard out. So let me just talk to you. What do you want the vibe to be like at the graduation? Is this a type of school that everything needs to be hype? Is it a more controlled and disciplined school where nobody can clap when somebody calls a name? Like, give me your idea of what the graduation's vibe needs to be.
We would like it to be a little quiet, but we don't think so, because even during the basketball games and the other events we have an active parent population and the students themselves. I think that this will be a fun, they will cheer. It would be good to control a little bit of the cheers to like kind of guide the audience where everybody's not just shouting everything throughout.
Right.
I think having it be something memorable would be great. The one thing that I do believe would be great also is we have a music department that may want to offer a selection. But could you help a little bit with the music too?
Absolutely. We provide full production assistance, whatever you need. And so let's back up a little bit. So you said that you want it to be fun. You want it to be a little controlled, but you know that you have a vibrant parent population that's going to cut up. Is that what you said?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay. So what I want to recommend is that if you want control, right, and we have minimal of it, then you have to set that expectation right at the beginning. And so you can't have a little control and a little lit. Like, you're going to have to set the bar so that when that parent does shout out, right, because it's going to happen, then you might want to make an announcement or two throughout the presentation. You could also solicit your teachers and the other staff here at the school to be mixed in with the crowd so that, we can kind of just keep wraps on some things. If you don't set the bar, you'll have no control.
Okay.
So a little control, a little control means no control.
Okay.
So we just don't want buck wild, right? We want to have some control. And you do that through the presentation on the mic, the reminders, you put that in the program. You want to make sure that they know kind of the rules. We set that tone when they're walking in the door. We set that tone when they read the program. We set that tone from the MC. Everybody who touches the mic, you have to kind of create the space. You're always going to have one or two or three people, go ham. That's just kind of how it is. Yeah. But generally, people do follow the rules once they understand what they are and what can happen if they don't follow the rules.
Okay.
And so we want to set that high. So what else type of vibe do you want? You talked about the music department. I think tapping into your school resources is awesome. I said, but you said you wanted fun and hype, and if you can't tap into the resources, or they've seen it already, right? Do you want to do something special? Because, do you want to bring in a musical act from your city? Is there a partnership that you've already kind of started working on, or that the kids really enjoyed a program throughout the school year? Is there something like that we can pull from?
DJ. I think a DJ would be fun because a DJ would accomplish that. So could we get DJ BJ? Could we get and then also a video? That way the kids could be hyping the video, and then I can kind of control some of the chaos.
A video on the screen or a video of people
on the screen?
Kind of okay, so you're gonna record a video? You're gonna produce a video?
Can we do something like
What's in the video?
Okay, students and saying how fun it is and them being hyped. It'll give a chance for them to do something that could be interactive.
I love it. I love the video.
Okay.
Are you asking for us to produce that video?
Yes.
Okay, we'll add that to the bill.
Okay.
You said you want DJ BJ?
Yes.
Okay. I do know him. I'll give him a call. We'll see if he's available. Who's your second DJ?
Man, I believe that. Let me think. Give me some ideas. It'd be also great if we could get. It'd be great if the DJ could talk to some of the students, get some of their favorite songs. It has to be clean, of course.
Always clean. Yep.
So maybe I reach out to the students and figure out who their favorite DJ is.
That's a great way of doing it. Do a student poll. Do you have a committee that's doing the graduation, or are you making all the decisions?
I'm making all the decisions.
I would suggest you do a committee. Get a couple students on that committee and get their buy-in on what this thing is. They would probably tell you what DJ they want, what kind of hype they want, what kind of activities they want, what the video can be. Students are super bright, and they would probably be more connected if they were involved in the process.
Okay, and now we gonna close that, and now we getting into the other side. Now you got to get your team together. We know who. How are you looking for audio? Who are you looking for to shoot this video? What type of timetables? How are you reach out?
So generally, after we have this conversation, it doesn't generally go like what we just did, but just the process of kind of finding out what the goals are, right? And what kind of vibe, because graduations are one of those things. I've been to graduations where it was quiet as a mouse, and I've been to graduations where it's been out of control. Parents out of control. They got their signs. They smoking weed. They got it's just, and so you have to kind of find out from the client what they want to do. And if they've been dealing with these parents all year round, they know what is expected of these parents. And sometimes there is no graduation, or you can only have one, or the students are in one room, the parents are in another. There's been all types of stuff happens to kind of put some controls. But so when you find out what the client wants, and then we try to build it. And so, thankfully, I have a lot of contacts in the city of Detroit. And so I would try to let people know, hey, I've got this school that is looking for a DJ. DJ BJ, are you available on June 2nd? How much is it? Because he has a rate, and I try to pay all the people that I work with. If it's somewhere where it's a volunteer opportunity or something like that, it's up to the person that I'm asking. Like, they really don't have a budget, but if you can do it, great. If you can't, I understand.
What dictates a person usually volunteering? Is it what it is? Is it just working with you? What usually dictates?
I think it's a variety of things. I think it's time and availability. I think it's what if there's another opportunity to be gained by doing the event. It's also a favor for me sometimes. If I'm asking them, because they know that I'm going to book them at 3 other events if they do this one for me. I rarely say, hey, I need you to do me a solid. Like that one I hold like for something I really, really, really want to do.
Now within also that volunteer, do you consider that like training? Because maybe a person can shadow and learn to be ready for that for the bigger payday. They may need to come in and volunteer. Is that how you run? Sometimes I've done stuff like that.
Sometimes, but not for something like that. If we're talking about DJs or performers and stuff like that, I need that person to be professional. I need them to know everything that needs to be known for that event. But if we're talking about something behind the scenes, or maybe a new video team, and I'm managing the video, or I'm producing it, or something like that, absolutely, I'll bring in people that are just looking to learn. Absolutely, all the time. I have a staffing company, and oftentimes I'll have people shadowing me, or I'll have them, shadowing the stage manager or production manager or whatever, just to train, and and then it's a volunteer opportunity for them, but it's a training opportunity for sure. But if it's presentation, where a professional is needed on stage, a host or a DJ or a performer or something like that, I need them to be at a certain caliber depending on what event it is. I wouldn't put a newbie in front of, a paid client, not in that type of way. Now, if that newbie has done a bunch of stuff, I just haven't worked with them, that's different. But if it's somebody who has never done anything before, I would not bet that on the presentation for a client that I am managing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And then when you're thinking, so people know a lot of my experience comes in audio. Shout out Lumumba and everything too. How do you look at your audio person for something like this?
I have a plethora of audio texts that I use for different things. Some are more palatable for like a school event versus like a high corporate event, versus a church event. Every audio person that I know can't do a church event. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole ethical, moral thing that I look for if I'm going to book at a church event. You know what I mean?
And that's a professional way of saying, basically, she doesn't want the guy that's going to be outside smoking weed.
I don't, or smelling like me when I walk into the church. And it happens. So, like, nothing against, but there's certain people that are better at certain things. There are certain people that I can hire for a corporate gig, because a lot of the corporate gigs, you're taping down chords. It has to be straight. If you're going to put skirting on the stage, you can't see any of the chords on there. If you're it has to be a certain type of person who takes care of the details. You know what I mean? And I have some amazing audio people that are not best for corporate gigs. So it's really like, who's going to be the best person for this particular gig because of these elements. And then I go down my roster of folks, and I have several that can do all of them. And I'll say, hey, I got this gig. Are you available? And then I don't ever get through my whole list. So generally they're available.
And with this, like as we're thinking, like we're using the imaginary scenario of the graduation
for middle school.
Are you also thinking of like people that are like that will connect with the event, like they have kids in middle school? Like, are these some of the factors that go into some of the decision making?
I don't know if it's to that detail. I don't think I would book an audio video guy who only because he had kids over somebody who didn't. It's always professionalism first, and then whether or not they would. And I'll give you an example. So for somebody who's doing a kids event, they might get a lot of talk from the audience, and they have to have a little bit more patience than somebody who might be doing a corporate gig, or even, I use church a lot because it's just, it's a good example for everything. So, in the church environment, oftentimes I need somebody that can be flexible. They don't have to be a Christian or whatever church it is, but they do need to understand what type of environment they're walking in, and to be able to handle the sisters and the girls and the things. I was going to
say that's the professional way of saying, as we've been in that Baptist church where pastor is preaching, and then the next thing you know, doom, 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 doom. Then it goes into song. So like if you're a very like scripted, I need a full run of show, what's going to happen?
Thank you. Yes.
That may not happen in all Baptist churches.
It may not happen at all.
Sermon can become song, can be some sermon, can become song.
Yeah.
And
it's live mixing, and you have to pay attention the whole entire time. You got to have your fingers on the board because at any point you could go left. And so, all of that. And it's important. Not every sound tech can do that. Some are very, very want everything by the book. They need a full script with pages and highlights and all the things. And, oftentimes that's not the case. So if you're that person, that's cool. I'll use you for something else, but it might not be for the church gig.
And when it comes to productions like that, how do you even know like the flow of your team? That behind the scenes team of knowing like, okay, this person's gonna usually performs best with in this environment, and this. You talking
about from a vendor standpoint?
Yep.
I think it's just my experience. Like I can either I've worked with you, and I like to work with people that I've worked with before, and I'm always looking to build new relationships, which I'm doing now with a couple of folks. But I can tell by your mentality. I would have had a full conversation with you about your skill set and your background. Like I understand how you flow, and I can tell by your. Or I would have come to a show that you've done. Like I do that a lot, to show up at the shows if I'm looking for a new vendor and that type of thing. But I like to use vendors that I trust. And so that means we would have had to work together before. My list is long, but it's so super important to me that if I pull you onto a gig, I don't have to worry about you. Like I cannot... I've done that early in the career, right? You just trying to hire an AV person or whatever. So somebody told you that so-and-so was good, and you bring them in, and, they don't work with the thing that you work with. I'm a detail person. Like you have to be paying attention. Like, there's so many things on how I work. And so it's important that I work with people who understand that and who work the same. Who work detail, who understand that straight lines are important, who understand that dead space is deadly. So if you are managing the music or the video or whatever, and there's dead space, you're going to get the dead stare from me, which means you may not work with me again.
That's a James Brown. Be like, huh! And it's like, never again. So that dead space, and it's unique. I was just speaking about this in another production that we were doing a walkthrough, because a walkthrough is usually it's so essential. If you ever work with Nina, it's going to be a lot of walkthroughs. Yeah, it's not going to just be one. It's going to be
because the venue talks to you. You have to be in the space, and the space will tell you what it can do, what it won't do, how acoustically it sounds, what other noises are happening. If you're doing a video production, you hear that air vent, you hear the birds, whatever the thing, it talks to you. So being in it, especially, multiple times, you get to know it pretty intimately if you've never done an event there before. And so I enjoyed, like when we did the event at Andy, just being in the space, because the space itself kind of lends to, without sounding something kooky, it just talks to you. Like the Andy has these black walls, right? It's a warehousey feel, so there's a lot of air in the space, It also has the type of floors that you can hear people when they walk.
Yeah.
There's all these things that I think about when you're trying to put an event on, because all those things could impact your event negatively or positively. You got to figure all that out. So being in the venue and sitting in there and watching and walking around, it talks to you at a site visit. So a site visit is crucial. Don't ever do an event without doing a site visit.
And the ideas on the uplighting and some of the other things, the accent, you were like, okay, we can do this, we can do that. Because I was like, man, that looks nasty. And you're like, no, we can work with that. And like just figuring out ways to work with the space is definitely a lot of your creativity tapping in those walkthroughs and site visits. But yeah, as you said, in dead space, in real life, 2 minutes is not a long time. If I'm at a production and you had a video screen that was supposed to play, and it takes 2 minutes to play, that might as well be like 10 hours.
Oh, my God.
Because the first thing when dead space happens nowadays is this. I'm checking Instagram. I'm checking emails. I'm checking text messages.
You lose people's attention.
And
so
now
quickly.
I have to capture their attention again.
Yep.
And you can keep riding a wave of energy and different things. And Fluent does this often. And it bothers me because Fluent always is like, I don't need a microphone now. And then he'll start doing his poetry. It's like,
man, if you don't grab that microphone.
I need you on the microphone. But artists are like that.
They are.
Artists are used to being like, I know I'm on the stage, but I want to talk to the people. And it's
Right.
like, oh, the lighting was set up for you to be on the stage. So you kind of got to know the artist too.
You do.
Because all of
and
this
be prepared for that. There's your live mixing too. Right? So your lights that were set, guess what you got to do? You need to move that mover over there. You got to make sure you catch the light, because the audience at the end of the day don't give a damn about what all this happened. They need to experience. And so if he now is off mic, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to change the lighting so it's a little bit, moodier, right? We're going to make sure he's in the light if we can, because, some things are stagnant. We're going to create the atmosphere. We might turn the house lights up a little bit. It just kind of depends on what's going on, but we got to catch him. That's why a live mixer is important. And that's live video and live audio and lights.
And all of this goes right into the podcast that you're bringing. And and the cool thing about this, and you all are seeing just like a piece of the wealth of this information, because Nina is like, you can go to Nina like, look, I want to put together a tour. And it'll be like, all right now, are you really ready for this? So, I mean, you can go from place to place, understanding, experiencing boards and everything like that. But people are going to get some real behind the scenes information from women that have been in this field for for generations, and others that just like connect with this work.
Yes.
So why is that important? Because I know you've been hit up for this information. So why start now?
Right.
What is it on your heart that wants to share some of this game?
I think I'm starting now because why not? I think, I feel like I've been around for some time, and it's time to kind of share that experience. I get a lot of calls, a lot of DMs, a lot of people wanting different pieces of information. And I figure, why not put all of that together in a podcast, and then create this tribe of people that we all connect to the same thing. I'm doing my intro for the podcast tomorrow, and I'm writing it out. And I think that one thing, if you're an event producer, creator, curator, director, designer in events, there's a moment when the event starts to happen and you look at the audience, and the audience has joy on their face, or the little baby is laughing, or the little baby's dancing, or the artist is on stage like they're supposed to be. The light looks great. The thing is happening. And now there's a moment of euphoria that you just can't describe. There's a moment of, oh, we did that shit. For a moment of like all of that, those sleepless nights and long days and money and problems and triumphs and successes and lessons up until this point when 2 weeks ago, you were like, why do I do this to myself?
Hilarious.
All of these deadlines and the money, you do that. But the moment you see it working and it all kind of starts coming together like a puzzle, that feeling that we all are connected to, that's why we get up and do it again. We do the same shit the next day. We start the next event. You're right. Over and over again. Despite it. So, and Gia, God bless her, she calls it mental illness. But, it's like one of those, we love that. Like for me, it's that. It's the experience of culmination of all that coming together for a moment of euphoria. It is a pat on the back. And if you're not doing it and you're in events and you just go from event to event without taking a moment to pat yourself on the back, you need to start. So that you so you don't get burnt out, because what happens in that moment, it is like the adrenaline and the just the culmination of feelings of we did it. It's just one of those things that I think we all have in common. And so in order to get to that place where we did it, look at everybody having a great time. They're having a good experience. They're listening. They're not on their phones. Like whatever height, whatever level that you set the bar at, that you met, it's just a great feeling. And so I wanted to talk about how to get to that.
And then getting to that, as you said, that feeling of euphoria, it is the contrast is usually backstage. Behind the scenes, it can feel like chaos.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes. Like, I've been on productions with, like I say, productions with you, productions with my cousin, my big cousin, as you always say, Lumumba. I remember one of the times we were working a car center event. Great production that they did where they honored Stevie Wonder's legacy. Terry Lynn is amazing, and other vocalists and other players came in, and just going through with the camera people, and then it's like just so brief because like we're on headsets and we're talking like camera 1 go, camera 2 go. Hey, what happened to camera 3?
Right.
All right, what's happening? Like it's not. Some of the most, Nina, some of the kindest people, Mama and Gia, these are some of the most kind people ever that you ever meet. But when it's production day, conversation is brief. It's all affirmative, all of the hey, you got that chord? It's like either yes or no.
Yeah.
All that, I think.
Yeah.
Now you've gone in Nina's mind to like, I need to talk to the person that does know where the chord is at, or can give me a yay or nay, because somebody may need to drive to Guitar Center later.
To get a chord.
Somebody may need to go to Micro Center. Yep. We may need to go back to the house. We may need to call on somebody else. But it's like right now, it's like you're really managing, as I call it, that game. Whack-a-mole, like where the mole comes up and you got the hammer like,
oh, bah, that's such a good analogy.
That's how the production is like,
that's such a good analogy.
They got the table. Yeah. Okay, cool. The monitor's up. Cool. All right. What's happening with the fifth person in line of this fashion show?
Right.
Do they have everything going on?
Where are they? I think they went to the bathroom. Can you go get them? They need to be in line.
Here goes a classic one. This is why you always get fed in high level productions, because they don't want people breaking for their own lunch, because one person's going to get a chicken shawarma, one person meeting up with their girlfriend or their boyfriend. Like, oh, it's a cool. We love going to this restaurant and it's right across the street from the Garden Theater. We could go there, eat something, and then come back. No, you can't.
No, you cannot.
What do you eat? Vegan, pescatarian? You want ribs?
We'll
whatever
sure
it is,
you're not leaving this building.
and the lunch is in that room right there, because we need to know even where you at when you're eating lunch.
Absolutely. Anything can happen. We start early, we start late. All sorts of things happen. The 3 models before you didn't show up, guess what? You're up. Like there's all types of juggling happening. And I love that idea, that whack-a-mole game, because when things pop up, you got to knock that bad boy back down. You keep knocking things down, and all of a sudden they stop popping up. You're kind of managing the thing, and that's the euphoria feeling. Video production is a little bit different because you're constantly on heightened. But at the end, you're like, oh, okay, we did that. There's always a moment in whatever job or whatever skill set is happening at that event, because you're just worried about your part. Right. And so because I'm either producer, director, or manager. So I'm looking at all the things that we're moving in a positive direction at the start of the event. We started on time. That's a pet peeve of mine. Right. Did we start on time? Are all the players in place? Are we moving forward? Did we kind of clean up any of the major issues? Because there's always anything guaranteed about an event is that things will change. So you have to be ready to manage the change that happens. If you're not ready to do that, then chaos. So are all those things, are we like, all the moving parts moving in the right direction, and we're all in a synergy? Video teams calling the show, audio's working, video lights are going, artists is on, mics is on, stage A's are there, the chicken is cooking, all of the things. There's that moment. Now, anything can happen at any moment, but we kind of arms around it all. Like that thing, that's the euphoria.
And then also with this, I do have this question. Often when you're in that position and you're leading the charge, one of the toughest things that I believe is difficult, at least for me, and that's why I always run with anybody that knows Kari. If it's business stuff, Suzanne is always involved. Suzanne coming. Suzanne is part of, it's like, I'm not saying I'm not taking it serious if you don't see Suzanne, but Suzanne helps bring some of that order when it involves a lot of other people. If I'm just solo and it's solo me, I can manage me. But when it involves others, sometimes just that transition of duties. Because oftentimes I've found that sometimes people are waiting for somebody to call that shot, waiting to pull that trigger. Like, how have you developed your skill sets of empowering the team under you to know that, like, look, I'm trusting you and you need to make the right decision as time goes and, ask for forgiveness over permission because I may be, 3 backstages over or, helping somebody find that parking space. How are you, connecting those dots and empowering your team where they have the confidence to know that Nina trusts me, she has me in this position, and I need to make sure that this production reaches that goal?
I think there's a pivotal moment when, whatever team member that I'm working with, that I let them lead. Like, I can't be a great leader unless I'm a good server or follower. And so there's been a couple moments in the last couple years where I've given the reins over for an event. Like, so we're at the point now where I've duplicated myself. I've got competent team members who can run an event without me. That is like, what? Yeah, that is awesome. And it came from, it's a test of fire. So like pre-planning, the pre-plan of the pre-plan. You try to plan as much as you can. You've trained this person, right? They've watched you do your thing. You can see that they are taking responsibility of certain areas already, right? You're given, what you give to them, they knock out the park, and they have a desire to do a good job, so then it becomes, let me just give them a little test of this. Oh, they did that well. Oh, let me go ahead and give them this, and they did that well. Or here's a learning lesson. Here's how I would have tweaked that. And so now we have people, who are managing stages who didn't even know they loved it, and now can't wait to manage the next stage because, we've been working together that long, and I trust that they're going to do an amazing job because they got what it takes. And so part of me learning to delegate and empower has to be trust. Like, I've got to know that I've instilled, it's almost like raising a child. I got to know that I've instilled the right things in this person in order to be out of town while these 5 events have to take place.
Wow.
Like, and it's nerve-wracking when I first started doing it because, like, what are you doing? Like, you're leaving your baby because, the foundation management has been my baby, but I can't grow any other way. I have to be able to trust the people that I put in place that they're going to do what they need to do. And even if they mess up, we can always fix it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no at the place that if I put somebody in charge, I believe that whatever they mess up won't be a big enough mess up to lose a count. You know what I mean? We might, somebody didn't show up on time or something minor, and that's kind of what's happened. And it's actually, in that trusting my team is how we've been growing.
Wow.
We can't grow without it.
That's
and
deep.
I'm really excited about the team that we have and the responsibilities that they've taken on so that we can grow.
That's deep. And then just in that world too, just connecting the intergenerational discussions, I'm sure will be interesting as the Zennial way of communication is a little bit different.
It is. It's really interesting. It's the millennial generation Z and X, which is me, but like we're having these conversations like after shows when we talk to these amazing interviewees, and the perspective is interesting. We agree on most things, but there's been some conversation that is, some of the Zers, will have a different perspective. And I'm here for it. Like, okay, but why do you believe that? Why do you position yourself that way? Like, where'd you get that from? And the answers are all over the board. I'm empowered to say that because, I saw it on YouTube or, TikTok, or, I've been following this person on, their blog, and that's how they did it. So, it's just interesting how they're getting their information and how they believe that information is true based on the fact that somebody told them that.
and I also think that like in this different styles and different looks, as like my style, it was way more systematic. Definitely sitting down with the client and learning I don't know if I would say vision or goals, but somewhat a vision. It's like, what do you want to do? And then as I get there and I'm working with new people on the team, like another guy, Leland, working with Leland.
What up, though, Leland?
And Leland's passion for photography and look. He sometimes has different artistic looks of wanting to show a little bit of behind the scenes and things like that. Whereas I'm more of a, standard headshot because this is the offering that people are used to. I'm not against a new offering. I just need the context to know if I'm going to offer that client the new offering. Because if I'm sitting down with that principal of the school and then they're like, okay, why is the full class graduation picture, just taken from the right angle and not a direct on shot like every other graduation picture that we've had in this school for forever. I need to have reasoning behind that.
Yes,
say, all right, this is why. Because the style of where we're going from things, especially coming from the right ad to blah, 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 blah. It
has to make sense for the brand, the goal. If your conversation was, hey, we want to try some new, we hiring you for photography and videography because we want to try some new different looks. We've had the same picture for 25 years. We like to be up with the times, middle school kid. If that's the conversation, then it makes sense for it to be a little more artsy or a little more. But in your world of creativity is a little bit different than mine because the perspective, I have a way of doing things. We have, there's a way of, it just is what it is. Now, can you do something different in how you meet with the client or like I embrace kind of flexibility, but there's a Bible and you walk through the Bible.
And that's where, like, as you said, like, spaces communicate to people, like presentation does too. Like I'm big on, like it's a reason why large universities have those large green spaces around them and the pageantry, like, that, you have a walkway usually of like, I don't know, 50 to 60 yards before you walk into the largest school on a university's campus because it conveys a message in your mind.
Absolutely.
If it was right there on the curve, I'm not saying that people would look at it like, what type of school is this? But
it depends on what city you're in, but yes.
Well, very true. But it conveys a different message.
It does.
The spacing,
it's
how
all
you
intentional.
set chairs, and we've been learning this message and how things have been conveyed for years. So it's even a certain way, like if we walk into a room, as you say, with lighting, and I kind of talk about this with April and the Good Cakes and Bakes. It's like she's like, yeah, I talked to a spatial designer where people even walk in and go a certain way now just based on the counter. Now, I'm not saying the old design was bad because we were still buying, but it was not triggering the incentive of how people can flow. Lighting can even impact the way people walk into a room.
Yes.
And where they choose to sit or not sit. All just conveyed by lighting, sound, like some of these dynamics, even how you set up certain seats, it'll convey where you don't have to have like a big, don't sit here like you're at the cabaret and it's like, oh, reserved, because it's like, I'm not honoring that. I'm going to move this reserve sign and I'm going to put my setup here and eat my chicken wings. But if you set up the space in a certain way, it'll be like, okay,
that must be for somebody.
If I have to cut the floor a certain way and then the DJ looks at me and they got a comedian host, I don't want to get roasted. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go on and just stand on the wall and wait till somebody else leave. We're going to play some musical chairs for
that's what you would hope they do. There are always people that'll, test the waters.
Usually, yes.
But you're right. Everything should be intentional at your event. If it is a performance, when I used to manage artists and it was super important for their stage presence to be a certain kind of way. And then inviting people into their experience a certain type of way. You don't just start out, like there's a connection that needs to be made to that audience for them to kind of come into what you're doing. You invite them into your thing that you're about to present to them. So they know why, they know what it is. It could be through music, it could be through words, it could be through lighting, it could be through performance. But it's like there's a finesse about it. And so I don't care if you're a single acoustic guitar player or you on $1 million stage. It's like there's always intention. You have to be intentional about your presentation, looks, sound, feel, and I feel the same way now that I'm in corporate events as I did when I was doing artists. And I was super meticulous about that, and I'm super meticulous about kind of how the experience happens for the person that's sitting in the chair. It's just when that curtain opens, what's that feeling that they're going to see, feel, and lighting is everything. Let me tell you something. I learned all of that, and I tell you, we started at the beginning of this conversation in church. And so if you regardless of I think the religion, it's the presentation. So if you walk into a particular style of church, they can persuade the congregation based on music, based on lights, rhythm, conversation. Like, it's intentional. Don't get it twisted. It's intentional. The way that the organist plays, how he plays, what he plays, the mood, the rhythm, the fast, slow, like we're managing the audience. And I learned that, in church, and I took that from and moved that through my businesses throughout the years. In when a certain person goes on stage and the spotlight hits them, that's all intentional. You know what I mean? Like if it's a dark stage and all of a sudden there's, a spotlight and there's somebody standing there. All of that is intentional. We want you to feel a certain kind of way. And if I know what the goals are, right, and I know what I'm trying to convey, I can create a plan to make that happen so that we're intentional about the experience.
Most definitely. And all of this, like, we're receiving these messages. And it's unique you bring up the church, because the church is definitely one of those spaces, not just in the Black community, but in America,
all communities,
where people are receiving a message that's being delivered, and it can be packaged in a way where you're going to receive that information. And it's a reason I forget what they call it, the design of where light comes in through some of the windows.
Oh yeah.
I forget what they call those windows. And
you talking about the stained glass windows?
No, the window, like sometimes it'll just be like slithers of light that shines in at certain places.
I don't know what they are, but you're right. Most of the even the whole cathedral look of a church, that's intentional, and the way that the light bounces down the or backlights some sort of emblem,
yes.
Generally, a statue of Jesus or whoever it is that they're worshiping. So all of that is intention for you to feel some kind of way. And it's, I don't think there's any malice to it. It is just delivering the message. We want you to get it. And oftentimes, we get messages through all of our senses. It's not just our eyes. It's not just our ears. A lot of times it's our smell and our, how the seat feels. And it's all of our senses at one time. And if you can tap into those as an event person, all of the senses, you have a win.
I like that you said that, because we've been to, or at least I have, we've been to that upstart storefront church where it's in a space that was not a church. It was like an office or something.
Could have been a store.
Now they tore down some walls and they opened it up, and it's the low ceiling and fluorescent lights. Yeah. And it's not saying like it's a bad sermon, but it conveys differently than that cathedral style where it impacts just a different design. And then as you see that storefront church add a little bit more, they get the new piano, they get the better seating, they add a little bit more. The experience starts changing, and the welcoming, like from the front door in, you're onboarded with this experience. Like what you say, it's just giving good presentation. If you've ever been to if you ever been to like even a 4-star restaurant in Detroit or like in the world anywhere, it's the food to me, and maybe I have a very hood palate. I am from 12th Street, so you know what I'm saying.
Hood palate.
I have a hood palate, but so the food is less, but the whole ambiance, the design, the garnish, the way that they're going to present the food to me, you're not going to get Dollar Tree plates when you pay for a 5-star meal.
You bet not.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't. Exactly. The chef will come out and speak to you, and you have the person that's standing by you, like pouring water. It's like, wow, what's going on with this experience? Like, and all of this is conveying a different message and even impacting your behavior. So now, if you're not even a person that usually puts the napkin on your lap, it's like, I'm here where I better put the napkin on my lap, because I would feel odd and out of place in this setting. Whereas a whole different sports bar, it's a different feel, it's a different ambiance that you want to capture. So the game is loud, all these big screen TVs,
a lot of TVs,
it's like you say, this is the place where your hands can get a little bit dirty and everything. Like these things are connecting messages the whole time through, conditioning people to respond a certain way. So if I ran a sports bar and it was a the, what do they call it? Like the white linen setting, people would be in there thinking like, am I supposed to? Like,
right.
Like, what am I supposed to?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to buy wine here? Like, I mean.
And you don't want people to think like that. You don't want them, you keep it the KISS method. You want to keep it simple. And so, and because of the conditioning, and because of the conditioning, I'll just say that, something that's not comfortable or expected, right? They don't know what to do, so they feel uncomfortable, and that's the last thing you want people to do is feel uncomfortable because they'll leave.
That's
they
number
won't spend
one
money
thing.
there.
Like I say, if they leave too early, that means that you didn't hook them.
Yep.
And if they stay too long, you had them. So as we get to a close in this, who are some of the guests that you have coming up? And just give a couple. We just gonna give a slight preview of a couple, and then it's one of those weird things because you're gonna mention one, and then it's like, why you ain't mention me? Let me tell you something. As a person that creates content, I said mention a couple. All right.
How do I mention a couple? Let's see. Well, I've curated the first season of guests based on a couple things. I think that's probably prefaced with that. Most of them are women. Who have been in the event business, like you mentioned, for forever. They're the OGs in the business. These are people that I look up to. They are some of my mentors, and then there are a few, that I've learned from, that I've worked with every single one of these people on my that I've interviewed, which I'm excited about. But I want everybody to hear the knowledge that they drop. You know what I mean? And so I would say if I'm going to drop, we talked about Ngia. So Ngia Kai with Detroit Events is...
Wait, time out. She's another 2-time guest. About to be a 3-time guest soon. But continue.
She going to be a guest on your show again?
Yes.
Oh. So you have to tune in to... Because we get a little deep in our conversation because she's gone through so much in these last couple of months and how it kind of affects her business. So the whole podcast about events and entrepreneurship. And so how are you going to navigate all things events, what happens before the event, during the event, after the event, as well as the business of events and how to navigate that. And so we get into her being an entrepreneur in the event space. We get into kind of a spiritual conversation in regards to that euphoria feeling and how she kind of manages that. We talk about, some of her favorite events, some challenging things that she's had to deal with. And we get into it. And so she is somebody you got to get your pen and paper out because her knowledge and the gems that she drops are things that you'll be able to use for a lifetime. They're not just going to be about events and entrepreneurship. They're going to be about life. Her life gems that she actually utilizes in her event space are life lessons. So I'm going to say Ngia.
Oh, we love Mama Ngia has definitely dropped a lot of game. Another one of the Capricorn love definitely there. That's why I need to get her at the top. And the greatest thing, if you ever have the pleasure of working with her, she shoots it plain. She shoots it straight. Yeah. And just like you, in a lot of when I think of the people I look up to in this field, the number one thing that I do want to leave and as we get to a close is the ones that I look up to are the ones that will roll up their sleeves. Nina is one that rolls up the sleeves. And when I say rolls up the sleeves, meaning like the floor needs to be swept. She ain't above sweeping the floor. She not above going to, get that the water's out the truck or whatever. Like what needs to be done. Sometimes people, I think, get into this and think to themselves they're going to be like the grand poobah and walk in and just be saying, do this and do that and do this and do that. If that's the world that you're in. Yeah. I don't think you're going to be successful in this game.
I would agree with you to a certain extent. I think, the people that I admire and the people that I've kind of built my business around or that are in my tribe are people that don't mind serving. Yeah. So it's a heart thing. They're just good people. And so they'll never let somebody carry something and they're able-bodied to do it and they can help. You know what I mean? It's just kind of, the nature of the people that I think are in my tribe. And so I think that's how you train people, right? So we were talking about that earlier, how to get a staff ready and how to duplicate yourself and delegate responsibilities and that sort of thing. And it's part of serving. It's a part of, let me help you. And it's really easy to do. And so, and Gia and I was just talking about that. You just do what needs to be done. Oftentimes the people on this side of the curtain, behind the scenes, we just have our head down and we do the work.
Yeah.
We just do the work. And I think that's part of why I also wanted to do the podcast, because I think those people but I would like to shine a light on those people who are doing amazing work and would never even think about taking credit or shouting from the rooftops, or because they could. That's just not, it's not what they do. And so I just, I'm excited about presenting, these people to some people who have never heard from them or heard about them. And I'm excited talking to them and just getting to know kind of how they've been able to maintain for all these years. There's a lot to be learned from people who have been in this business 20 years, in the event business, 10 years, 5 years, that those who are just coming up can garnish from.
Most definitely.
So it's important to share.
And I love it, and I'm looking forward to it. Not saying that I love everything here at the network, but this is so, like, when we say podcasts are niche, and I think the best ones are niche and connect, this is completely me, because I'm all production, and I love getting some insights and some game, and I'm looking forward to even that discussion between the both of you, because I know it's going to be a lot of game gifts that I can pull and apply immediately. Even from this interview, you gave me some ideas on like implementing and putting that other person and like showing that confidence that I have for them being in a leadership position, because it can be a lot.
It's important.
It can be a lot. And then also, as you said, like people that have a passion and a heart for this, you made that in a different level of playing, as I say, the person that, not saying you have to delegate, obviously, but not being a person waiting for something that needs to be done to get done when you can do it. If 9-volt batteries need to get put in these lavalier microphones and the PA that's supposed to do it, am I about to wait on that PA to come and I'm looking at the 9-volt batteries? Am I about to put these 9-volt batteries in here and still be on my headset saying, all right, camera 3,
right.
Good shot.
There's a good balance there, right? Because there's a lesson to be learned to that PA who's late, who should have done the batteries already.
Yes.
So you have to stop and kind of, navigate that. But you also, and they need to know that I'm not going to wait on you. This is your job. You're supposed to do it. And I'm trusting you that you're going to do it. And if you don't do it, then I'm going to have to do it. And if I have to do it, then I don't need you.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just call it what it is. I don't need you if I'm doing your job. And so a lot of that is, showing them, and training them, especially, and I know I hate to sound like, in that case, but a lot of our newer team members, they just think differently, and the expectation of being babied or, that they shouldn't have to or whatever, I don't really buy that. So, or I raise the level of expectation. And this is, if you want to do this with us on this team, this is the expectation. And you're not going to get babied here. I'm going to support you. I'm going to support you, train you, lead you. I will support you and serve whatever I need to do, but I'm not going to baby you.
So I want you to give 3 tips of a person that's new to production that they should remember, and I'm gonna give 3 tips myself. All right.
What type of event? What type of production?
Just event direction? Any. I'm gonna give 3, and then I think you can follow.
2.
You may concur.
Oh, you first.
All right. So first one, when asked to complete a task, and you don't know what to do next, that does not mean that you can sit in the audience. That means you go back. She's laughing because this has happened before, okay? That means you go back to say, hey, task completed. What's up? If you don't get anything, then you take your audience seat. That's one. The second thing, when you're on a production staff and you're planning for what things are, and you're wondering, like, where should I go and where should I learn? And you feel a little nervous. The first thing you need to, in that nervousness, know that you were brought to this team because someone does have confidence in you. So you got to tap into knowing that somebody has faith to have you in that position. All right. So to ask too many questions and is this right? Is this wrong? The more is this questions, especially the higher the food chain, meaning like Nina is like the higher the food chain, the more you're going to end up on the short list of people to get that call back. All right. Because really, I know this is going to sound weird because this isn't like most work because it's project based. Project work is different than like every day in an office, 9 to 5. If nobody's coming up to you, chances are you're doing your job right. If they're coming up to you, they want you to adjust. And I don't mean necessarily you doing the job wrong. That just means this is the style in which I want you to do it for me. Okay. So that's the second thing. So don't over ask. Hey, is this right? Is this wrong? Da, 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 da.
We agree.
Third, Third thing, and this is very, very, very important. Time is real. If you're a production, artists included, time is real. You can't say, "Oh man, this is a queue event." You know, queues. They say it's 8:00. They probably not gonna start till 9:30 anyway. Cause I know queues. I know 3 of the people putting this event on. They probably not gonna start right. You know, I know Kari and Nina told me that the call time is 6:30. I'll probably pull up around 7:30. Timing is everything.
Time is money.
Because it gets to a certain point where the question, like at 6:30 is, hey, where is, for instance, I'm going to just say, where is John Doe? That's the 6:30 question. 6:35, it's like, John Doe ain't here yet? By 6:45, in Kari Frazier's mind, John Doe has just made the decision to not be a part of this project anymore. So when John pulls up at 7:30, John can buy a ticket with everybody else. Those are my 3. But,
Say that. Okay, so Ben Stafford. So I think you said one that I think is true. The question thing, trust yourself, right? Because we hired you to do the job. You know technically what the job is, so trust yourself. I think that was your 2. One of the tips that I want to give outside of your third one, which was show up on time. If you have a call time, be there on time. There's no such thing as CP time. Don't do that. It's prepare. I think we lack, like we think that we get a call, a project, a gig, event, whatever you want to call it, and we don't have to do anything prior to showing up. Like you don't know what the name of the event is. You haven't read an email. You haven't Googled the place, you don't know anything, and then you show up and you expect to be able to just jump in. And I think because you don't take the preparation time, then you are lacking when you show up. Because I'm going to expect when you show up at 7:00 that we can jump right in. But if you don't do what you're supposed to do before that, then you are going to cost me time and money. And as Kari clearly said 3 or 4 times, time is real, but time is money. And so if you don't show up properly, you cost me time. And then that is a hesitation for me wanting to work with you another time. So showing up on time, being prepared when you get there. It takes 2 seconds to Google and find out what you're doing, where you're going. The other part, when you show up to a gig and it's a conference center, it's Huntington Place, it's the Fox Theater, wherever, have you not taken time to know where you're parking, how to get into the building? You have all the information because I'm good at sending out that information, but you didn't read anything. One really good sign of getting or not getting the call back from me is not taking any initiative at all. You haven't taken any initiative to figure it out, because part of development of being an event person or event business is figuring it out. Nobody knows all the answers, but a person that works on my team needs to know how to figure it out. Maybe you didn't get the email. Maybe your phone died. Maybe all of that. That's no excuse of you figuring out how to find us. So if we said we're going to meet up at a certain location, it's on the 3rd floor in the back room, I need you to figure it out. And if you do that, we're going to work together. We're going to work together a lot, because that shows your initiative, you cognitive, deductive reasoning. You know how to think on your feet. You don't let anything stop you. Like, those are the type of people that will last in this business. And I think that goes across the mark, whether you're doing video production or photography with Kari, or you're producing or film with a bunch of actors, or you're doing an event at any level. You got to have that initiative that's going to help you get from point A to point Z without direction.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm going to give another cheat code on top of that in that direction. Mm-hmm. Get some contact information to other people on the project. Because if the only contact you have is the person that's like in that director position, if you're text messaging me, it's so weird because people text message me Like, hey, I'm about to be there. And it's like, what do you think I'm doing if the event starts at 8 o'clock and it's 7:45? You know, I may be able to get to my phone, like, for show.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If it's something I'm expecting. The only time I'm, like, really looking at my phone, if it's something serious on that I'm expecting from probably another one of my, you know, people in the production team, like Nina, Lumumba, or something like that.
Yeah.
Other than that, you know, you need to know other people in the team. Just cheat code. Just get that information. Get that information.
Take some initiative. Quit being lazy.
Yep. So there we go. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be very fun.
Excited.
Thank you so much.
I want everybody to come on this journey with me because, you know, I am a person that's behind the scenes. I call us queens behind the scenes. And, you know, I'm used to having my head down and doing the work. So this is all new. Like being an open book. If you know me, I'm an open book. If you want to come, you know, I'll help anybody. But like being able to kind of talk to you like this and be really open and vulnerable, it's a new space. And so it's a journey. So I'm looking forward to everybody coming on the journey with me.
I'm with it. And you know, Detroit is Different supports it, but Kari Frazier been Team Nina for a long time. It was actually one of the weirdest things when they were producing the show with Rhapsody with Piper, and you know my Piper.
Shout out
Piper,
Rhapsody.
And Piper love everything, but then Piper also could get like, people ain't buying tickets. I was like, Piper, how many tickets you sold today? She was like, 10. I was like, let me get 10 of them. And then Nina was like, I like this guy.
I do. Yeah,
I was like, let's take that complaint off your hands.
I love that. So just a little shout out. Kyrie is an amazing curator of events, creator of events, producer of events. He has so many different skill sets. And so if you don't know, he's not one dimensional at all. You might see him on a podcast. You might see him behind the scenes. You might see him in video. He's got endless skill sets. And I'm just amazed at every single time we talk because I learned something new about him. Please continue to support him. And Detroit is Different. That's why we're here. We could have done our podcast in many of places, but we decided to do it here because of the connection to the community and because of how well Kyrie is connected to his passions and his beliefs and what he's trying to do for all of us. And so continue to follow him. Detroit is Different.
Oh, that's deep. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Peace.
Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.